What is up, everybody, and welcome back. For today's video, I'm going to show you how to build this custom size niche out of the Laticrete Hydraband board. Let's do it. So before we begin, let's go over the tools that you'll need. So the tools you'll need are the Hydraband adhesive and sealant. You'll need a measuring tape, a knife, a marking tool, putty knife, a caulking gun. You'll need Laticrete approved screws, a screw gun, and a level. You'll also need a spare piece of Laticrete Hydraband board to fabricate your custom niche. So one of the most important things when building a custom niche like this is figuring out your tile layout. So if you haven't done that already, I suggest you pause this video and take some time figuring out your tile layout. If you need some help doing that, I will link the video below on how to do that. I like to find my layout, throw up a ledger board, and I'm going to start my tile, a full tile from the ledger board up. Now, how are we going to do this? Yours is of course going to be a little bit different, but I'll walk you through the process here for mine. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find what I call the finish line. Now I'm going to drop my tape down to my ledger board, and I'm going to make a mark at 40 inches. Because my tile and a spacer is 8 inches, so that will give me 5 full tiles from the ledger board to this line. And I'm going to call that the finish line. And that will make more sense in just a minute. So the finish line is not where we're going to cut. So I don't want you to be watching this video and be like, okay, I figured out my layout, I pulled the line, I'm just going to cut here. That's not going to be correct, and I'll show you why in just a second. So I'm going to take my level, I'm going to make another line over here, take my level, draw it across from stud to stud. That's going to be where I know my finished product is going to land, 5 full tiles from that ledger board to the bottom of the niche. So now once you have your bottom finish line, you want to grab your top finish line. I've just laid out what the inside of my niche is going to look like. So I know I want 3 full tiles, 2 side by side, inside the stud bay. So then you're going to take your tape measure with your spacers, and then you're going to measure. My finish line for the top will be at 23 7/8 from that finish line I already drew. This is just to help you visualize. You can definitely do this with calculator, however you choose, but just to visualize, this is what we're looking at. So now I'm going to mark at 23 7/8 from this line. So now I'm just going to mark this at the 23 7/8. So this is my top finish line. So a common mistake that you can make is by figuring out your layout, figuring out this line that I just pulled here, and making these cuts. What's going to happen is if you follow this, when you go to install your custom niche, it's going to sit on top of this cut line that you made. Now what you're doing is you're adding 1/2 inch, plus you're going to have to add thin set to this and then your tile, which is going to throw off your layout. So as you can see, if I start full tile from here up to here, now I'm going to be ending here with a 3/4 inch sliver essentially. So what you're going to do to avoid that mistake is draw your finish lines. You're going to come back and we're going to make another line, which will be our cut line. We're going to make it 1 inch reduced from that finish line. So it's 1 inch because it's going to be a 1/2 inch for your board, and then we're going to add a 1/2 inch to accommodate for tile thickness and thin set. You might want to measure the thickness of your tile if you're using a natural stone or something thicker. Make sure you accommodate for that. But because we're using a standard size tile, I'm just going to give myself another 1/2 inch room. So I'll do that now. So now this will be our cut line. So we're going to make a cut here, and then we're going to do the same for the top. And that's how we'll get the opening size for our niche and have it also line up with our layout on the outside. So now that you got your cut line, all that's left to do is grab your knife and you're going to make your cut. Since our studs are behind the wall and we can't see them, I'm going to start my cut from the center and work my way left to right till I hit the stud, and then I'll go up and down and I'll get the back piece out. Make sure that when you're cutting, once you hit the stud, you're staying to the inside. We're not coming up and out and going onto any other line. You want to keep the stud covered by your board. So now to reinforce the niche, we went ahead and added blocking to the top and the bottom. So the next thing we have to do is cut all of our pieces in. I'm going to start building it from the bottom to the top. I'm going to grab my measurement for the bottom piece. So you're gonna measure from the back wall to the outer edge of your board to get your measurement on both sides, and then get the width, and then I'm gonna go make the cut. So now that all my pieces are cut, I'm just going to dry lay everything just to make sure it fits. This is a good thing to do just in case, because once you start building it into place, you have to add sealant, and that can get messy quick if you don't double check your measurements. So I'm just making sure everything fits right. So that's good. The left and the right side, good. This is going to slide right in there, just like that. Okay, we're good. So now I'm going to build this. So for this, you're gonna need your sealant and your screw gun. You're gonna need your putty knives and your Laticrete approved screws. First thing you do is you're gonna add your sealant on this seam here where this board is going to meet the top board that you'll be screwing here on the bottom. So just gonna add a good amount of sealant here for in between the seams. Next, I got my bottom piece. I'm just going to place it down and squeeze down my sealant. So that's what you want to see happening. Next, you can just secure it into place using your screws. Okay. So I'm going to put the top piece in first. I'm going to do exactly the same thing. Add my sealant here. All right, so I'm just going to flatten out some of the sealant before it dries. This stuff tends to dry pretty quickly, and I don't want it to make any lumps and bumps. So for now, I'm just flattening it. So the next piece I'm going to install is the back piece. So I'm going to run some sealant along this bottom part here in the back where it's going to sit. And then along the top, same way. And then I'm just gonna add some sealant on the drywall where it's going to adhere to. Since we won't be screwing this in to the drywall because the screw will go through the wall and you'll see it on the other side, I'm just going to add sealant. All right, so now I'm just going to put the board in. Okay, you can wiggle it around a little bit, make sure that it sits in the sealant. Okay, we're good. Next, I'll do the left and the right sides. So I'm going to do the left and right sides in the same exact way. Only this time I'm going to add sealant on the bottom, the back, and the top. So everywhere that it will be board will be touching board, we need sealant. And we need to do this outside corner too, or this outside edge rather. Don't forget to do that. So this is what it should look like before you place your left and the right pieces in. And I'm just going to make sure, again, you're sticking it into the sealant, sticking it in the sealant. Make sure you're squeezing, especially this outside edge here, and it's all making contact. So now the final thing you want to do is make sure all of this is waterproof. We're going to waterproof this by adding our sealant to all of the inside seams, add more sealant to the outside to get that nice 2-inch banding overlap. Make sure we waterproof our screw holes and make sure we get our inside seams really well. So I'm just gonna take my spatula, I'll start on the outside, and I'm just going to start spreading. Everywhere there's a seam, you wanna make sure you have an overlap like we have on the walls already. So for the inside corners, I find it easiest to use my finger. So I'll go along and make a nice seal here with the sealant using my finger. And then I just clean it off my finger. I clean the sealant off my fingers later. So now what you'll notice after using your finger, it will make this build up here like this. I just like to go around and take the spatula and just kind of flatten it out, just so that it makes a good seal, and then it's not going to cause any buildup behind our tile when we're tiling it. Just like that, just flatten it out. So once you're all done, you can use the acetone. It cleans your fingers really well and your tools. It like gets the sealant off really quickly. If you've ever used this and you've attempted to use soap and water to clean your hands, you'll know that all that does is make the sealant dry and it will not come off your fingers. So acetone works great. So here you have it. You have a custom niche size, completely made out of the Laticrete Hydraband board and sealant. So just a few important things to note before you move on to the tiling, and that is waiting for your adhesive and sealant to dry. Laticrete recommends that you wait for it to be tack dry, which they suggest takes about 40 minutes depending on the ambient temperature. So be sure to follow that rule before you set your tile. Now, the next thing after that would just be to tile, and you have yourself a beautiful custom niche. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not already. Hit the like button and drop a comment and share this video with your friends if you think that they can use it, and we'll see you on the next one.